Welcome to the Timeshare Legal Action.
Hi, everybody. This is Timeshare Legal Action, and I'm Mitchell Reed Sussman, the founder emeritus of the law firm of Sussman and Associates. And we have 5 offices in 2 states. And in the past 49 years that I personally have been practicing law, our firm has secured the release of over 50,000 timeshare owners. And I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Panda.
Hi. And I always say that Mitch and I are the yin and yang of timeshare. So he actually helps people, owners who are seeking relief from their timeshare contracts. I do appellate work and defense work and represent attorneys and companies who are sued by developers. And I serve as co-chair for the American Association of Justice's Timeshare Litigation Group. We haven't mentioned this in the last 2 episodes, my co-chair, Juliet Sussman, who is Mitch's lovely daughter and who is licensed in California and Nevada. And I am licensed in California and Florida, and I believe Mitch is licensed in California. And we want to make sure that our listeners know that this is not legal advice, and you do need to consult a lawyer, and you may need to consult a lawyer about which state's lawyer you need to consult, because this can get very complicated. We'll try not to get too technical, but we did want in this podcast to let you know how timeshare ownership actually works from a legal standpoint, what people are told, what the contracts say, and what happens when someone tries to get out. Mitch, today we were going to talk about license to lie, yes?
Yes. So there are different laws in various states. The license to lie really is this is a term or phrase that was coined by Panda. And essentially what she's talking about here is that when you sit in a timeshare presentation, the salesman can tell you all kinds of things. Like in a previous episode, I mentioned one salesman told our client that they had a resort in Greece. So the client decided to sign up because Greece was her be all and end all for traveling. And then a week or 2 later, when she called reservations, the reservations officer said to her, "Oh, we don't have any resorts in Greece." So this is some of the things that are said that are not necessarily true. And at that point in time, what does someone do, Panda, when they're faced with this type of just outrageous misrepresentation or lie? How can they handle it?
Well, I wish there was an easy answer, Mitch, but honestly, they probably need a lawyer. And the reason is because the timeshare developers this is not their first rodeo. They have, the statistics are staggering about how many people have buyer's remorse and wish to get out. And they're told, and a lot of times I hear stories, and I'm sure you do too, about people texting their sales rep who said, "I'll be your personal concierge, anything you need, I'm yours." And that person stalls them until the rescission period is over. So now the rescission period's over, right? And there's this disconnect, as Mitch said, between what someone was told during a sales presentation and what is in the contract. And here's what the developers have done. And God bless them, because they have lawyers that are competent on their side trying to make these ironclad contracts, right? And maybe, Mitch, you want to say something about some of the terms that are in those contracts that make it difficult to disclaim the things that were said, that they had timeshares. So they had timeshares in Greece, but now you've got contract terms. I don't want to get too technical, but what are some things that are the first obstacle in saying, hey, the sales rep told me there were timeshares in Greece?
Well, you're correct. I don't want to get too technical, but there is a clause that is referred to as an integration clause. The essence of this clause that is in all of these timeshare contracts, and I've never seen a timeshare contract without a clause like this, that says that your contract is everything that has been said to you, and that any representation made by your salesperson that's not set forth in this contract has never been made, does not exist, and you cannot rely on it. So, for example, if someone said to you, "Oh yeah, you want to go to Greece? We'll send you to Greece." It's not in the contract, and so therefore you actually need to go to a lawyer who then can use various legal principles to get around this type of representation. And it does require a lawsuit, so it gets to be quite pricey. What's your thought on this, Panda?
I would add to that that again, this because of the massive number of people who regret their purchase, the the developers have gone further, and in their contracts, the lawyers have added not just the non-reliance integration clause technical thing that says nothing that was said you're relied on, but they also have the owner's initial certain things that are likely to come up, like you did not purchase this as an investment. You were not told that you could, for example, use this for commercial use. So the owner not only has that provision, but I'm sorry, I know you don't want to get too technical, but this is why people go to law schools. They can deal with these very challenging situations where somebody has disclaimed, right? They've signed the contract, they've initialed those specific things. So different states have different approaches to what will happen, because it may be that I have a napkin where the person wrote Greece, right? If they wrote Greece on a napkin, I'm going to fight, right? But it might take a good lawyer in the right state to be able to do that. Yeah.
Well, in many of the states, there are laws that say, for example, that the salesperson cannot say that this is an investment, and that's why these little things that you need to initial are there. The other thing that is frequently said is that you have the ability to resell the timeshare. And, this is a topic that we could talk endlessly about, which is there is little or no resale market. So even though they say that in theory you can resell, in practice there is no resale market. So even though they've told you that they have that ability, without a resale market, then it's trying to sell a pig in a poke.
You know, Mitch, I just spoke to a timeshare owner, an unhappy timeshare owner, who reported to me that they were told, "Look, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but you can rent these if you keep it on the down low. And yes, you're saying you're not going to rent it, but they're never going to enforce that provision. And you can make so much money by renting out this timeshare because there's some, event that occurs, spring training, or these race car, whatever it is in the timeshare uh host city, right? These are very desirable rentals, and you can be your own Airbnb person, but you won't even have to deal with the cleaning, right? And I just think that's a whole episode, is these what I call mega renters, and how they have struggled when the developer decides, no, we actually don't want to let you. We are going to enforce that non-rental provision.
Well, it's it would be inappropriate for Panda and I to say that all timeshares are the same, because frankly, there are timeshare companies that do allow people to rent, and they don't give you roadblocks. I have a dear friend who I've known for 40 years, and he loves his particular timeshare with, again, a developer whose name I won't mention. He loves his timeshare because he is able to rent it, and he does make a small profit. I'm not here as a timeshare salesman, but what I'm saying is there are timeshares that are better than others. Some of these timeshares will allow you to exit without paying a large fee. Some of the timeshares will allow you to rent it out. Others put up all kinds of roadblocks. So it is a business that has different players. Some of them are uh, better than others. Would you say that's a fair analysis, Panda?
Oh, absolutely. I guess we're not naming people that we're not happy with, developers we're not happy with. So I guess we're not naming developers we are happy with. I feel like they would like to be mentioned, but on the other hand, they're probably not watching our program.
All right. Well, who are the ones on your list that without actually being in who are the ones on your list that you find easy to work with?
Well, one of them fell off because they got purchased by an entity, or they've just gone downhill. But Disney, I feel I've never had a complaint about a Disney timeshare. It seems like they would just like to keep their brand clean, and they would not like to be the in the have the reputation of other timeshare developers. Do you agree that Disney is one that you
I think
typically don't
Disney is
see?
one of them, and the one that we have in our office, they've actually this particular timeshare, and I'm going to mention them right now, Marriott. Um, Marriott, their program is a lot cleaner than many of the others. We've had literally people in the Marriott o- general offices recommend to people that they contact my office because we know how to deal with Marriott to get an exit or a cancellation. And if you go online in some of the places where you can try and resell, you'll see that the ones that have greater value are usually the ones that are affiliated with the type of timeshare that I call the kinder and gentler timeshare. I will also say this, that over the course of the now almost 20 years that my firm has been handling timeshare exits, I have noticed a remarkable change. And I find, at least as it relates to our office, that the timeshare developers are much more amenable to negotiating a settlement with my office than they were 20 years ago. That doesn't mean that they'll let people out for free. They usually want some kind of money. It could be as little as $500. But if you have a mortgage, they will also discount the mortgage and allow you an exit or a cancellation of the balance. Um, I don't know if that's your experience because you don't actually deal with the consumers on a daily basis as we do, but I will tell you that the timeshares, um, in the main, without mentioning specifics, they've gotten kinder and gentler in total.
Okay. So I'm going to say something that will surprise you and your wife and your daughter. You are being too humble, Mitch. You are being too humble. The reason that you have that experience is because you are a force, as we said in the first timeshare legal podcast. You are the godfather of timeshare litigation, and they will take your call. For the most part, I represent many attorneys. Once they write a letter saying I have John Doe, Mary Doe, and 8 other Does, and there's 10 people on that letterhead that say all these people have these contracts, that they would entertain a reasonable fee to get out. That the letter that my friend got back when was, you are representing a tsunami of owners, and we don't negotiate with terrorists, essentially. So that your reception is atypical. And I think that does have to do with your stellar brand, Mitch. So your wife and your daughter will say, please do not let this go to his head. Too late. I said it.
You're very sweet, my dear friend. Well, the truth of the matter is that before I became the emeritus founder and was involved in the day-to-day litigation, uh, our firm sued everybody. And we had some very, very good results. And based upon those results, um, we have been able to secure a reputation with the timeshare developers that allow us, I would say, a little bit more flexibility than someone who's new to the business. Now, with that said, do you want to talk about, like, again, this is technical, but The ways that you can, if there's litigation to get around the license to lie, do you want to talk about the ways to do that, to get around that so that you can actually file a lawsuit based upon a misrepresentation?
Sure. In the short time we have left, the 5 minutes we have left, uh, so basically most states, and this is state by state, do have exceptions to what's called the parole evidence. We're not going to get into that because you didn't pay tuition for law school to get into this. But that basically that outright fraud is an exception. So there is a lawsuit approach. The danger with that is that they will sue you back and get their attorney fees pursuant to the developer contract. They may have a right to collect if you have a mortgage balance, right, Mitch? You have a mortgage balance, you sue because you want to get out, and now they sue you back for the balance and attorney's fees. You are now worse off than you were. If you had not sued, you would just have this, collections issue, credit issues, but now you also have an attorney fee exposure. So I'm concerned about people doing, lawsuits without a competent attorney on their side, one that's got a good rating and has not, is properly licensed from their state's bar. So it is tricky. But the other thing is you can do there's the court of public opinion, Mitch. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. But let me speak to the specifics of the type of things that you could conceivably sue that we have done in the past. So, for example, if there is a statement or representation that is not covered by the contract, for example, someone who is adding, my favorite illustration is, I want to go to Greece. Well, there's nothing in the contract that talks about whether or not there's a resort in Greece, and so you can actually sue upon that. Another one, which is all too frequent and is very, very upsetting to me, and again, this is an anecdotal story, and it involves one of the largest developers. I had two retired people who, before they were even retired, he was a postman, and she worked in the food service industry, and their income was never more than $80,000 a year. Well, now they're retired, and they were sold $250,000 worth of timeshares by a major developer. And in order to do that, they needed to get it financed. So in order to get it financed, the salesman prepared a credit application saying that their net worth was $1 million and that in retirement their income was $250,000 and so forth. So these types of things are absolute fraud. They are literally misrepresenting to the bank in order to get the loan. And this is not something that a salesman actually discusses with you. So because it's outside the scope of what is normally in the contract, you can file a lawsuit again based upon things that are outside the normal purview of one of these timeshare contracts.
Sure. And that's it for this episode of Timeshare Legal Action. If you want to learn more about your options or take a closer look at how timeshare cancellations actually work, you can visit timesharelegalaction.com. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and to the show and leave a review if you found this episode helpful.
See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.